Hello, everyone. This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co-host, Darby Robinson. And we are live on youtube.com/at Raise Your Voice, and also still available wherever you get your podcasts. If you haven't already, make sure when we go live, join us on YouTube. You can turn on our channel notifications so you can get pinged whenever we go live. Join us. We like to have some fun in the comments, but of course, still available wherever you get your podcast. If you want to say thank you, if you really love what we do and want to say thank you, patreon.com/raise your voice, where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. Darby, it's been a few weeks. The Rays have been lighting the baseball world on fire. And we have kind of gone radio silent the last few weeks. I've been traveling. You've been busy. It's that part of the summer. But I'm really happy that we could get back on here today, even though it was a tough loss today in the series finale against Detroit. Just another really successful week for the Rays and a team that I think our outlook on this season is probably pretty different from the last time we recorded a podcast.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's been tough. There's been so many things to talk about. And so we've been both like kind of, ships passing in the night, unable to talk about all of the news. So yeah, if we go long today, it's because of that. But it's been wild because this is not, like you said, it's the talk of baseball, not just like, the Rays are getting hot. It's like, this is the hottest team. The Rays are the hottest team in Major League Baseball right now since May 20th. We've seen some tons of hot, like national MLB Network and MLB Twitter account and all of that sort of, like it's filling up Instagram feeds of like the Rays highlights and notes. And this is now the second straight weekend where the Rays had a chance to sweep the top team in the league. Last weekend, they swept the Mets in Flushing, New York. This time, they have to settle for merely a dominant series win against the top team in the American League. This time in Tampa. So amazing what a couple of weeks change. And I think if you go back a couple episodes, we were sort of talking about like when we were like, have we changed our outlook? And we were still like, when the Rays were kind of still just before May 20th, honestly, where it's still like kind of floating around 500. And I think we both had a similar thing. Like this team should just be performing better. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense. And they've faced a lot of good teams and they've held their own and they were above 500 against better than 500 clubs, but they've only faced 500 clubs. And they were just weirdly bad at home, but they were really good on the road. And it was one of those things where I think I mentioned that, like the sweep against Arizona and like a dominant series against San Diego back to back kind of showcase like this isn't a bad team. And then they lose some weird games closely. And so we were kind of both of the like, they're not performing well now, but like it doesn't make a lot of sense. And we still believed. And now the script is completely flipped and they've started to get those games and that luck and that kind of these games that could have gone the other way have suddenly just been a kind of an avalanche for them. So yeah, unbelievable vibe shift in the last one.
And it's crazy, like that May 20th date, that was that come from behind victory against Houston where you walked it off on the Taylor Walls sack fly. And ever since then, like you said, things have kind of just flipped and you're getting the breaks that you need to have a successful season. And are the Rays going to keep up this pace throughout the entire season? I don't think so. I think we're going to talk about some of the reasons why. But I think the last time we talked, and kind of where our thoughts were this team is a team that was treading water, make it to the postseason, was capable of sneaking in there and hanging around in that wild card race. And now I feel like I'm looking at the rest of these wild card teams, and it's not going to be easy. Like I think it's like a 3.5 game lead before you're out of the wild card completely right now, and things are tight. But I feel like you're in a really strong position to at least secure a wild card. And depending on how the chips fall, I mean, you're going to be able to push the Yankees here for the division. It's going to be tough. The Yankees still have Aaron Judge. Their rotation, specifically Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, have been incredible. And I can only imagine that they're looking to add at the deadline here as well. You're going to be in that race now. Still a lot of baseball left to be played, and I don't want to say just based off of a month we can be convinced what this team is or isn't. But man, it's just been really fun to watch, and the biggest fuel for this run has been the bats, has been the offense. And I think some of it, we're finally starting to see the home field advantage we thought we were getting at Steinbrenner Field. It's warming up. It's incredibly hot. They've had actually more day games than I thought they would. Some of it's scheduling, like Metallica's playing and Ray J. I don't know why they played at 12 yesterday. I don't know if there's another event. But I think the Rays are actually, getting a little more comfortable there, starting to embrace the heat. And we've seen on more than one occasion, including that Houston series, like Hunter Brown throw a tantrum. Zach Eflin look really frustrated out there. Like it's not a fun
too loud for him.
Baseball. Yeah, it was too loud. Today, I mean, like it's the ninth inning, and it actually hurt the Rays a little bit. But it looked like a sunny day, and then all of a sudden it was like torrential
rain. Just
So
yeah,
this
Whitley
is
couldn't control. He couldn't feel anything. Every ball was just a pool cue. Yeah.
This is what I meant when like there are few people in March and April tweeting like, this is what baseball is supposed to be like, outdoors, beautiful. Look, who said it couldn't work? It's like, yeah, go to a game in June, a 12 o'clock game where it goes from feels like of over 100 to now you're soaking wet. Like it's not enjoyable. I'm trying to get down to a game this year when I'm going to be in town in July. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm not like looking forward to sitting in the stands for 2.5 hours. I really just want to go to a game and see the team. But I think that like the Rays are finally starting to get that home field at Steinbrenner, and that's been fun to see the bounces break their way.
Well, okay, so this is one of those things with like, I guess some people might be like at a certain point, and this I think before the Met series, I think a lot of people were like, okay, maybe they're just like riding a sugar high, they're just like getting a little hot, like every team goes on a run type of thing. After that Met series, I think that really kind of showcased like, nah, this is probably just like legit. The things that I've looked at where I'm like, this is not a mirage, and that this team, while they're not going to be at this hot, like torrid of a pace, I think is I think they are one of the top 10 best teams in baseball this year right now. Like I thought they were a solid wild card contender, but I thought things could break well. I think they actually are set up really nicely as a team to be well. Is they're the only like wild card team that's above 500 against at home, above 500 away, above 500 against 500 or better clubs. They are the team with the best record against teams that are greater than 500. Like they have a plus 70 run differential, which is third best in the American League. It was, I think they were tied with the Dodgers before today. They're two less than the Dodgers. Dodgers are at plus 72. And I know I kind of joke a little bit about how I'm a kind of a run differential, like Pythag truther, but I do think that's it's very hard to be on the extremes in run differential and not be either very good or very bad. It can be done. You can beat your Pythag. You can beat you can be one or the other, but like if you are in the top 5 in run differential, you're probably pretty good. It's hard to do like just have like just nonstop blowouts and then lose a bunch, right? And then like it's usually either you're playing close games and those can go either way, or you're blowing out teams and that's in your back pocket as being capable. And I think the Rays being so competitive, they're not just taking advantage of a schedule. In fact, they're much better against teams that are really good. Like, the Orioles series, they got the Orioles that are hot. They split that series, but then you get the Tigers and the Mets, and they just absolutely trounced them for 5 out of 6 games. And this last game, I mean, they lost this one. The score is lopsided, 9-3, but that was 6 runs in the 9th with like the crazy torrential downpour. So really, that was a very close game. And the 2-run bomb that got them the lead, the Tigers the lead, that ended up being the winning one, is a unicorn home run that only goes out in Steinbrenner Field. It's a 1 out of 30 ballpark home run. So this is a team that is competitive against very good teams. They're not taking advantage of a weak spot in their schedule. This is a team that's really been taking it and playing like really good baseball, especially on the offense. And we've seen like multiple people with multiple game hitting streaks. And we've seen like, finally, we've sort of talked about this. Like once Caminero and Yandy can start hitting to like their level, where would this team go? And Yandy and Caminero are hitting.
Yeah. Like a month ago with Yandy, I was kind of starting to think, okay, he's at that age where things don't normally get better at the plate. There's anomalies, but I'm like, okay, if he can just kind of hover around league average and then have a couple different streaks where he gets hot and can contribute a little bit more offensively, you know, it's not necessarily what you want from your DH that hits in the top or middle of your lineup, but I'll take that from Yandy. And since then, the last month, him along with really the rest of this lineup, everyone has raised their levels of production. And this is what it looks like when everyone is hot at the same time. Because we can go over some pitching numbers. And there are some pitching numbers that have looked really good for the Rays, but I think if you watch the games, there are you have more question marks now than you did at the start of the season about the pitching staff and where things are. But I want to focus on the hitters right now. In the last 30 days, you've got 8 players with a WRC plus of over 100. At the top of that list is Curtis Mead with the 213 in like only 33 plate appearances, which is a shame, right? Like his first month and a half of the season wasn't playing at all, and when he did play, it was terrible. And now he's still not playing. He's still on the roster for now. We'll see how long that lasts. But he has contributed when he's had the chance. So now I'm at the point where, again, I think I want to see more of Curtis Mead. I don't think it's happening anytime soon with the Rays. But Caminero, 204, Morel, Aranda, Brandon Lau, Yandy Diaz, Matt Thaiss, who's been a great addition, and Taylor Walls with a 135 WRC plus over the last 30 days. When everyone is firing on all cylinders like that, including, you know, I'm gonna call them your core 4. That's Yandy, Brandon Lau, Jonathan Aranda, and Junior Caminero. When those 4 guys are performing at that level, and for qualified hitters over the last 30 days, all 4 of those guys are in top 30 in baseball in WRC plus, including Caminero, who is 3rd in baseball, only behind Ronald Acuna Jr. and Cal Raleigh. And that's not including today's numbers where he hit another home run.
Another home run.
He is 3rd in
Cal
baseball.
Also hit another home run. So
Cal Raleigh is just on a different planet right now.
Unreal.
In WRC plus, Junior Caminero the last 30 days, 3rd in all of baseball. He's ahead of Aaron Judge, ahead of Ellie De La Cruz, ahead of Ketel Marte, Juan Soto, just like incredible. Like this is what, if you took, you know, the best possible outcome for Junior's season this year, like this is what it looks like over a month-long stretch. And I mean, he's going to have over 20 home runs before the All-Star break. He is going to potentially, now there's whispers about, or he wants to be in the home run derby.
I mean, who doesn't want? Actually, I'm curious. Do you want him in the home run derby?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. There's always the fear, right? It ruins your swing, whatever. I think Caminero is 21. I think that's just a fun experience. And he is such a vibrant guy. Like he is a fun guy. Like he kind of went a little viral in the Lidom, like that walk-off where he like into the stratosphere and took like about 17 minutes to run around the bases. But that was super fun. And like that's what the home run derby is. You want to see guys that are like explosive and fun and like having a good time with it. And you want to see people that want to be there. I think like when the dip in the home run derby happened, kind of in the 2000s, there was a lot of people who just like didn't want to be there, it seemed. And it was kind of like, it kind of would happen like what the slam dunk contest turned into, which was like a bunch of people like can we just get anybody to come here? So if you got a 21-year-old who's got light tower power, yeah, get him in that home run derby.
Do you think he could win it?
Yeah. No, righties are always tough. I like Vladdy and the polar bear. Like, I always like to pick a lefty when it comes to the derby, no matter the stadium. But yeah, no, I think he's got insane bat speed, and he's
gonna get lucky on some home runs. Like, there are certain guys that have to put the right swing on it. Junior, the way he performs in game is different. Like, early on in the season, it was like he's hitting the crap out of the ball, but he's not lifting it. I don't think that would be an issue in a home run derby setting. His swing is very, I don't want to say this as a knock on his swing, but it's a violent swing. It's one of the hardest swings in baseball. And the only thing I worry about is how repeatable is that once you get into a derby of like, okay, how hard are you swinging? Like, can he take off the bat speed a little bit?
80% and just pop him.
And can you last in the new format? I'd love to see him try. And I don't know. I know with Randy, he had a bad second half that season, but
Randy is a guy that does need to get his swing maximized to get home runs. It has to be a pull. Like, it's like he can get some opposite field, but it's like his swing, a guy of Randy's size, he does not have the same like Randy kind of reminded me like Todd Frazier in the derby, where it's like, you kind of need to have a plan, you need to have a mechanic, and you need to like have like a location for the pitch. Like, you need to kind of come in with a plan. Whereas guys like, I think like Pete Alonso, Vlad Jr., or like Junior, it's like you just have so much power that it's just like flicking the wrist and you're like smashing home runs. And it might be pulled, it might be center field, it might be right. Like, it doesn't really matter where you hit it. It's probably leaving. So I think there is more room for, but those guys sometimes gas themselves. Like, I think like that is the thing, is sometimes the big pop guys, you might have like a massive round and then be like completely juiced. Whereas like the Randys or the Fraziers who are like, I have a plan to win, and it's just going to be, I'm just going to just like quick
down
the right field line type of thing.
It could be tough. Like, if Caminero got into a stretch where like, okay, 5 straight swings where he makes solid contact and none of them get out, they're just not lifted enough. It's like, it's hard to then like, you can use your timeout now. There's like the strategy of when you use your timeout to like reset and say, okay, I've got to like find my groove again and not just try to swing my way out of this. But I'd like to see him try. And like when Randy came that close, it's one of those where it would have been like one of the coolest moments in franchise history to have one of your players win that derby, which is, I have never been like the biggest All-Star. I'll watch the All-Star game. The derby for me though is must watch every year. So I think that would be really
for sure.
Let's talk about a couple other guys just been on fire. I mean Brandon Lau, like, what else can we say about this guy? He is now up to 15 home runs on the year. Looks like he'll be in a good spot to get close to 30 again this year. Actually, it'll be only the second time in his career he's done it, since he had 39 back in 2021. I mean, just one of the best Rays players of all time. And has been consistent. He has stayed healthy as of late. And
one of the best second basemen of all time, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like he is a top 15 all time in baseball power second baseman. Like, the numbers, at least hitting wise, are just like through the roof. It's a spec. We've talked about this a lot though, but like, he is very undervalued by Rays fans, or like maybe not undervalued. I think a lot of people do appreciate what he does, but like, this is an all-time like Rays, like, he should have his number retired type of level. Like, he should get, he's going to be there for almost 10 years. He's been consistently great power. Like, the injuries have definitely hurt, he's had some rough like postseasons, but this is a guy who is going to, I think, be rightfully remembered very fondly. In this franchise.
Future Rays Hall of Famer, I think.
No doubt.
I think he's on that path, and would love to see him go, I'd really, really just want to see him get another chance at a deep postseason run and have some more success. Even though, 2-home run game in the World Series, I say that every chance I can get. Aaron Judge has never even sniffed that. So Brandon Lau has done it and was part of that game for Magic. I know you and I like to talk about that any chance we get. And yeah, Yandy, Yandy is finding his groove again, where he is one of those guys where, like, you look at any other hitter profile, it's like, oh, this guy hits the ball hard on the ground. Like, that's just not going to be a successful hitter. I think Yandy just has the ability to, like, hit it where they ain't and go the other way with it. And that's something he's made a career out of. He's also found those right field bleachers at Steinbrenner Field a few times. I think that's been huge. I don't think that's something we thought about all that much going into this stadium for the year. And again, at the top of the lineup, to have all of these guys clicking, I didn't think we'd see that this year, where they're all clicking at like the top percentile outcomes for each of these players.
Well, and coming into this year, where I think we were really excited about was that it was not going to be like stars and scrubs type of lineup, but like a
Right.
top to bottom thing. And so in this streak, it has been like the worst batters have
But
been
even
like,
the scrubs, like,
oh
I know
yeah,
like Meisner struggled, but I don't know if he's long for this roster.
but yeah,
But like
like if
Danny
you look at
Jansen has stepped up.
yeah, he's been over 100 WRC plus. Mangum has been at 100 WRC plus, and like the most RBIs. Like the guy has been a machine with runners in scoring position. Josh Lowe kind of came back hot and has cooled off the last 2 weeks, still over 100. So like when you have like guys like Josh Lowe as like also, just contributors, like when you got guys like Mangum and Jansen and Face at like the bottom of the lineup where you're not counting on them, and combine that with your core four being top 20 bats, Caminero top 3 bats, that's when you get like both the stars and depth lineup. And right now, I mean, you look at like the last 30 days, or from May 20th on, the guys that are at the bottom of the WRC plus with at least let's say one plate appearance, right? So they have something. Ben Rortvedt no longer here. Chandler Simpson no longer here. Jose Caballero depth, and still like he's been struggling a little bit, but 77 WRC plus, really good defense. He's a depth piece, right? Like he is a guy that's plug and play all over. Then everybody else 95, 96. The only other person of the regulars who've gotten pretty good amounts, like 76 plate appearances, is Cameron Meisner, and I think that's the only guy right now on the roster left that has a negative WAR in this time. Everybody else is positive. That's insane. Right now, if you look at like the Nationals, they have 3 players that are positive WAR and the entire rest of the team is negative, which is an insane stat. The Rays, there's only one guy that has any negative WAR. It's only by 0.1. And that's Cameron Meisner. And that I think he might not even be here the next game.
Yeah,
that we're playing.
Yeah, Richie Palacios looks close, and I think that might be a good swap. Meisner hadn't played either of the last 2 games. It was Caballero in center, and then it was Mangum in center today.
And Palacios and Durham yesterday center field. So it seems that seemingly the writing is kind of starting to get on the wall there.
And it'll be interesting because like Morel has also hit really well when he's been given the opportunities. Had a mammoth home run. I think it was yesterday's game. And I complained and I've worried about what his role is going to be and where he kind of stands. But man, he just looks like a guy that is having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Like being a member of this team and embracing his role. And that's really cool to see. This is a guy that was, kind of pegged as an up and coming, really good player. Like could be an all-star level player one day. And, he's been relegated to this bench role. And might there be some more playing time if Meisner is sent down and Palacios comes up? Yeah, there might be. But Palacios might come in and just play left field over him,
Yeah.
and you move Mangum to center. There's going to be some, maybe a few more plate appearances here or there, and maybe he's still going to play against lefties. But that's been fun to see. Like the bench right now with Theis, Mead, Morel, and then like Walls or Caballero. That's a good bench, and it's only going to get better.
Yes. So that's the thing, right? Okay, we're looking at this bench, and we've talked about like last pod, we were sort of saying like, Mead's not long for this world because he's not being used and he wasn't doing well. And Christopher Morel, a lot of people wanted like cut, right? Because it's like, what's his purpose here?
Yeah,
he
Simpson was sent home.
But like you look at it and you're like, well, I mean, Christopher Morel, since May 20th, 44 plate appearances, 3 home runs, 175 WRC plus. Curtis Mead, 40 plate appearances, also 3 home runs. The thing that we've talked about so much was where's the power? The power is there.
Yeah.
254 WRC plus since May 20th. Right. So not the last 30 days, but since May 20th. That's your bench guys. And they're not playing because they haven't been playing lefties. And the rest of the lineup's been just doing so well. So it's been a high class luxury. And so like it's tough, right? Because like we were talking about like somebody like Travis Janikowski, who provides some value, but is also very important because he knows that role and is comfortable being a guy that doesn't play much. If Christopher Morel can accept that role, and he seemingly has, and be that good like clubhouse presence, obviously Camanero's best friend on the team, like they're very, very close. If that's the role, and he's just sort of like playing every now and then and succeeding in a part-time role, amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to play. Like it is so impressive what Curtis Mead and Christopher Morel are doing right now because they're getting almost no playing time. It's so easy to get cold coming in like every 5th day to play 3 plate appearances and then get pitched at, or get 1 pinch hit appearance. Like Chris Morel's come in and like been like, here, pinch hit against Josh Hader. Good luck. Or like come in like mid at bat after Taylor Walls gets ejected. Good luck. You already have a strike against you. It's amazing problems to have, and I think the Rays have done a good job of getting those guys in a spot where they can, I think, feel comfortable not playing and still contributing.
Right. I want to talk about Luke's question real quick here. He says, I know that the Rays want Simpson to improve his center field defense, get at bats, but if not Simpson, I don't know what their plans are for center field long term, considering it's what they base their run prevention off of. That's a good question. I think where they're at right now, and in the short term, you can kind of plug and play a few different guys out there, including Simpson, if the need arises. But you've got Jake Mangum, who is old, very mature, and under team control because he came up so late. You got Cameron Meisner that you're comfortable with. Johnny DeLuca is still around. You still got Simpson. If you needed more depth, if all those guys went down, like Tristan Peters could come up and I think defensively do a job. If the Rays were in a really big pinch. Beyond that, I mean, there's a couple like Theo Gillen has been playing center field, and the early reports have been good. I mean, he's 19; that's years away. But I don't know if they have I don't know if the Rays ever have a long-term solution for any position. I think there are guys that we don't know about yet. There are guys that you could trade for to replenish the system.
Wait for the Denzel Clark trade to drop, and there's your defensive. There's your new KK, new Siri. Don't ignore the 45 WRC plus. Just the best defensive center fielder in baseball.
They're and Jose Caballero, right, has played center, and I trust Jose Caballero to play just about anywhere. Put him behind the plate.
Gotta get him in catcher. We got just one in a blowout, right? Switch. Have like face throw Caballero catch. Let's just for fun, just for us.
So I think there's plenty of short-term options and long-term options. Like, I don't know, Chandler Simpson, I guess when the Rays drafted him, you could probably see the writing on the wall that he had outfield, just like when they who's the other one? They traded Greg Jones, like speedster, can cover the ground out there.
Speed athlete.
Yeah.
grab a
The long-term solution, I don't know. But I mean, I think Simpson kind of is like you're looking, okay, 3 years from now, you hope Simpson can play center field. But who knows?
Right now, though, I mean, you look at this team and you look at we look at the ink that was spilled with Simpson going down, and I mean, we can definitively say that was the right call. Like,
yeah,
Jake Mangum has come up and done some huge moments, right? Like Cameron Meisner's defense has been really good, and he's probably not long for this role, but Chris Morrell has stepped up into that role, and it's the Rays. This is one of those spots where I think a lot of people kind of saw this, especially from the fantasy community, being like, but he's getting steals and his batting average is 296, but the bat was not good enough as constituted. He was not getting on base enough, and the defense was really, really bad. And I think
okay, here's the difference though. You could argue that all things can, like, in a vacuum, he was good enough to be on the 26-man roster.
Yes.
But that's not what you want for him in this moment in time.
Yes. Is that helping
better
him?
for his development?
Right.
Like,
is it?
Yeah, sure. Was he good enough to be on the bench? Sure.
Better. Yeah.
In when the time comes, like September, or even before,
is that better? In the role, like if we think about Morrell specifically, because that was that person that a lot of people are like, oh, cut Morrell and just leave Simpson. If Simpson's getting that little playing time, that's not good for his development. Like, you still have a development to do here. You still are a guy like Luke's question. Like, that is hopefully a guy that can get to average or above average in center field. You want to get to there. Right now, though, it does feel like this, like Jake Mangum has kind of lasted beyond the honeymoon phase to the point where, like, seems so. Brian Menendez had a comp in the Slack chat, and I'm not sure if you saw this, Brett, but I really like it. That Jake Mangum is this year's team's Joey Wendell. Like, it shouldn't make sense. It shouldn't work necessarily, but like, just produces a lot. Like, he's gone beyond the Sam Fold fun, quirky story to, like, the guy just kind of just produces. And, like, yeah, logically you're like looking at this, and analytically you're looking at this, like, be like, he doesn't make enough contact, or doesn't make enough hard contact, and you're kind of like picking on the edges, and you're just like, I don't know, he just got another RBI. He just got another, just like, he got another dribbler that goes past the pitcher where the first baseman has to come there, and then both guys are just like, what are we supposed to? We can't do anything here.
Oh yeah, he just turned a double into an out in the outfield. Like
he's just producing enough where you're just like, at a certain point you just go, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy.
There's a level of, like, maturity of, like, okay, this guy's going, like, he is, grateful to be there, right? Mm-hmm. I think at this point in his career, and, like, just shows up to work every day. And this is a guy, like, he led the SEC in hits. Like, he's the all-time SEC hits leader. Like,
he has been in big moments for, like, years. He has had a lot of big baseball games. The spotlight is really not too bright for him. Like the SEC, that is the thing that really does come to it, is like, he is 29, so he's a mature guy. Like, he's a rookie, but, like, an older rookie. But that SEC time, like, those are high stakes games. Like, he is playing against guys that got drafted high.
Yeah, and it's one of the best baseball leagues in the world. I mean, it's top 5, arguably, in terms of talent. And I think Kevin Cash's faith in him. He hit 3rd and 5th this weekend in the 2 games.
Been slotted in, like, to 6th for, like, the majority of the last, like, few weeks.
But even since then, he slid up. So, kind of interesting to see what I do think he kind of becomes the center fielder for the time being. And you mix Caballero out there as well.
And eventually, when DeLuca comes back, you can still have a left-right platoon. Mm-hmm. Like, I think, there's that there. I mean, like, that's a problem that, the Rays are now into the spot. This is the other thing that, like, is, like, the Rays are just legit good. They're in the now high-class problem of, you're gonna send down a good player now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Curtis Mead is hitting extremely well. He should probably get more playing time, but where? And now you really are at the point where you are basically looking at, can you like, you need to get Kim up this week probably, and so you're gonna send down a good player.
Like, I mean, it'll let's talk about it. So we've kind of hinted at Meisner coming or going down as Palacios gets activated. Palacios can play left, can play center, could play second or third as well. If you need to give Brandon Lowe a day off or Caminero a day off. And then eventually when Kim is ready, after he had his short break in his rehab, but he's back, everything seems to be fine. It seems that Curtis Mead would be the move there. You've got 2 first basemen. They've given Yandy a few more opportunities at first to kind of keep him fresh so he can be Yandy's backup. You don't need Curtis Mead for that. You can play Walls as and Kim's not going to be ready to play shortstop every day, so you're still going to need Walls. And you've got Caballero, who played shortstop today, but has played all over the outfield this year as well.
So I guess that's the question before we move on. So like Kim Topkin is mentioned potentially on. He said could be available on the road trip, which kind of means he probably is coming up on the road trip. Like usually that's the Topkin saying a thing that's like, yeah, it's probably he got told that. So Mead has an option, Caballero has an option, Walls has an option. Brett, you're saying Curtis Mead.
Yeah, but I've kind of, I mean, could it be Taylor Walls? Like,
we mentioned Walls as like, if Walls isn't playing short and Kim is playing more short and Caballero is just being a backup, where's the role for him?
So is Mead more valuable on the bench than Walls? Like, with that being said, Walls is used as a pinch hitter, I think, more than any of us are comfortable with.
Frankly, yeah, at all is and he has hit really well lately, and he is the best defensive shortstop in baseball right now. But like, yeah, where is Kim's playing time coming? And is that at expense of Taylor Walls? And if so, which is more valuable on the bench? I mean, do you see a world where it is Caballero going down? I don't really. No, he just plays everywhere.
Yeah, no, it would. It's Mead or Walls, and I still think it would be Mead. But I think it's Mead
because you maybe want to see him get like full-time playing time, and maybe that is a trade.
Yeah,
like he has now gotten a chance to show that he can hit, and now you're bringing up Kim, who's your big free agent signing. So you send Mead down, he tears up Durham, and now that's perfect timing to say like, this 24-year-old guy is hitting like crazy. We can't fit him anywhere. Like we would play him, but we can't fit him anywhere. So come get him from some team. And maybe that's the case. Like, I just think more playing time but it's such a tough, it's going to be an interesting choice. I think Mead is the most logical sense choice, but I don't think it's like 100% that it would have been like maybe 2 weeks ago. It's 100% obvious, easy choice. Now it's like 98%.
Well, and it could get to the point where like, okay, you want to be able to have the flexibility to play Caballero in different spots. And you also need to be able to give Kim days off at short. Like, it's probably only going to be playing 2 out of every 3 days, which is kind of the schedule Walls has been on. He's been playing 2 out of every 3 days at short. So I think if you're going to have more openings at short, Walls makes more sense to take up that roster spot and play short, where keeping Mead, his playing time's not, if anything, his playing time might be harder to come by because you're adding another right-handed bat in Kim.
It kind of slots right into his playing time. Yeah.
And
that's an interesting question.
Defensively. Yeah. I think if you get a right offer from anyone, you would look to move Walls. Now that you'd have Kim, you still have Caballero. And although I still think he is maybe a year away from being truly ready, you've got Carson Williams break glass in case of emergency. He has started hitting much better with the Bulls, working on the swing and miss. But I think like I was kind of pushing Taylor Walls to the Dodgers for a long time, but it now looks like Mookie has figured out shortstop because he's Mookie Betts and he's a Hall of Fame level player. Darby, I didn't even put this in the rundown, but we're gonna fit it in here before we kind of transition into the second half of the show. But I need your reaction on the Rafi Devers.
That also happened when that we've been going. What a mess the Red Sox are behind the scenes. My quick take on it that is going to be similar to a lot of other people's is a lot of blame to go around. I think Devers could have handled it better for sure, but I also feel like this whole situation, I think, is a real testament to Craig Breslow and the Red Sox front office being a clearly dysfunctional mess, and they deserve a ton of blame for how this all went down. There's a whole lot of worlds where you can be like, Devers is a bad third baseman, Bregman's a good third baseman. You can spend money and get Bregman, and then you don't need to do that. Why not trade? And if you're like, this is a contract we didn't sign, Devers is going to be a disaster, it's going to be underwater. Okay, trade him in the offseason.
Yeah,
like trade him then when he's a third baseman still. Also, it's not underwater. Like, the contract is not underwater as much as people are kind of saying. Like, I get it. He is being owed a lot, but he also, as a first baseman, Vladdy Jr. just signed for a lot more, and he's 2 years younger. Right. I feel like that you may not be in the market for that, but like, I don't know. Like, if you're calling this a deal where like just trade him for like literally anything, basically a trade dump, and you get an interesting prospect basically back and a fringy kind of interesting arm. That's what they got back for Rafael Devers. And you're saying it's underwater because the deal was like too much to like pay for just a guy that's a pure hitter who eventually will be bad. Don't sign any free agent ever. Yeah. Like, why? Like,
Miguel Cabrera, like the Tigers paid for Miguel Cabrera at the end.
Albert Pujols' deal was underwater.
Yeah, like that. That's the nature of the beast, and it's some of the
Giancarlo Stanton's deal was underwater.
Yeah, it's like, okay. First off, when you're evaluating prospects and players, you can look at future value and say, well, they're going to take a defensive hit here. You know, you can kind of grade out values like that then. But on a game-to-game basis, there are 9 spots, and one of them is the designated hitter, and one of them is the first baseman. And you need to fill those 2 spots in the lineup. And I'd rather do it with a top 20 bat in baseball, a guy who is in his peak still and having one of the best seasons of his career.
Who has improved in chase, swing and miss, and on base percentage. Like, he has improved at the areas of his game that were weaker.
And the aging curve applies differently to those players at the top level of the game. Guys that can extend their peak into their mid and even late 30s and make adjustments. They're not always going to be the same hitter. I would bet on Devers being he's that caliber of baseball player that can I look at Freddie Freeman. He doesn't do things exactly the way he did when he was 25.
Underwater contract as well.
But all these years later, he's still hitting like an all-star, a future Hall of Famer. So
I just think the whole situation was a mess. It's one of those things where it's like they made it a mess and we're like, he doesn't have a position, so the contract's underwater. You took his position, frankly. So like you did that. And then they're like, he's not handling it like very maturely. It's like, you didn't handle it maturely, and he is reacting like, obviously like negatively, but like there's been a ton of like in the media BS with the whole thing that like,
a lot of posturing.
David Ortiz being a nice little, he's just running cover for John Henry, being like, Rafael Devers actually sucks. Everybody hates him. Everybody thinks he sucks. Whereas Pedro Martinez, who's not under John Henry's thumb, is kind of like, actually, nobody dislikes Rafi Devers in the locker room.
Right. So, and it's still hard to me to
see. Intrigue.
Like, you can have takes on the return. I don't think it was a great return. It could work out well. Birdsong could. It was Birdsong, right?
No, they couldn't get Birdsong. They got Harrison.
Kyle
Harrison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not Birdsong.
They got Kyle Harrison. George, much better. Like they tried to get better players. This is why I know it's not a good deal, is because they tried to get the good prospects from the Giants and were like, but you have to take the entire money. And the Giants were like, no. And so they're like, fine. The outfielder, yes, we like that because we only have 8 outfielders. So why not? And then Harrison is fine. Like he's gotten another level this year, but like he has been around kind of a long time to still have not figured it out. So I feel like he might be like a solid 4 or 5. Hicks is terrible. Like he's a failed starter. He can be a good reliever, but like he's being paid a lot. So he's clearly just the salary dump in from the Giants side.
Yeah.
And you got a interesting pitcher in the complex league. So who knows what that is? That could be anything.
Yeah. Like Tibbs, I'm partial to James Tibbs because he's a Florida State guy, but
understandable.
A lot needs to go right for Tibbs to reach his first round like potential, and it very well could. I don't know.
But
none of us like we can't know. None of us will know like what it was really like inside that clubhouse. And what the vibes were and how much the Red Sox needed to get rid of him to move forward with their goals as a franchise. Like maybe it was so far gone that this was just the best thing because the Red Sox, like Craig Breslau's new, they got a lot of pieces to be really excited about. They are going to be in the playoff race, and the last thing you need is something hanging over that. So none of us know that for sure, but we can definitely criticize from the outside how it got to this point.
It got to that point.
It should never be seen like as a good thing to trade a franchise player who is in his peak and like you're a good team. You're at least a decent team this year.
But if you're thinking about this, you're saying like it has to be that he has to be a really toxic person, Devers, to make this work. Because the arguments baseball wise are that like, well, it's a bad deal. He's just a DH, blah, blah, blah. It just basically makes the argument that like any time you have a chance to salary dump any player owed more money than you think that they can be gotten, that's a good thing. So like the Longoria trade is maybe one of the greatest trades of all time by Craig Breslow standards, because he was worth way less dollars per WAR. So that contract was wildly underwater, and the Giants took it. So what a great steal. And yeah, Juan Soto, he's probably cackling at Steve Cohen with Juan Soto being like, what a fool. You've got an underwater contract. And all you have is a 26-year-old generational first ballot Hall of Famer. And but by 38, he's going to be trash. Vlad Jr., you fools in Toronto. By mid 35, you'll only have 9 years of a successful guy and have to owe 6 years of a failing guy with a bad body.
Which is like, and again, like the standards are different. One, the price is going to continue to go up for these players. So the value, like the value,
US dollar won't matter.
So like, okay, let's say Devers at 35 years old is like a league average hitter at what
completely falls off a cliff
a year. But maybe, you know, the 130 WRC plus first baseman in however many years is making an at like going for 40 million. So okay, you're getting closer to league average for 30 million. Like that's value created in saving
and all of the value that are above it beforehand is added to it. Like every end of free agent contract is bad. Like to win a free agent, if you sign a free agent, you're gonna hate the last few years. Like almost always, it's very hard to find a deal because like it'd be great to be like, I would like to sign a 3-year deal, right? But that's not how but that's the trade-off is you pay fair market value for a 3-year deal of like, say, Tyler Glasnow. That's a terrible deal for Tyler Glasnow. He's going to want the last couple years.
The point is for teams like the Red Sox and the Giants and the Dodgers and the Yankees is, I think I've shared this on this podcast, that those are the teams that can and should spend to acquire the top talent, guys like Glasnow, Devers, so on and so forth. And then when those guys get hurt and break down or just get old, they spend on top of that to bring in the next crop, and that they are always staying at the top level. And there's only a few teams that can truly do that year after year and keep kind of replenishing. And then there's a bunch of teams that like can afford to bring in like a Miguel Cabrera. I'll use the Tigers as an example, and then probably can't afford to do what it takes to bring in those reinforcements when Cabrera is still making however much money and is not good anymore. Then there's the teams like the Rays and the Royals who you better be really careful who you offer those big contracts to. And it's got to be young players where you're not going to be eating bad years in the end. It's got to be the Bobby Witt Jr., the Longorias, the Wander Francos, like where you get them young, you homegrown, develop them, and sign them really early. You know, Atlanta has done this as well. And Atlanta can spend a little bit more.
Yeah.
The Red Sox should be where they're willing to eat the bad years of Devers, and they're going to spend more money to go over the first apron and bring in, like, lock up the Anthonys and the Christian Campbells of the world to build a lineup around Devers.
And that's a great point, though, because that's a lot of people brought up was that, like, okay, you have to evaluate this deal with what they will spend that money on. Guess what? They were still $30 million below the first apron. They still had $30 million to spend before the very first tax penalty. You have Steve Cohen that is basically saying, get me to the third. Like, I don't care. I have money to burn. So, like, what I don't think that is actually, I really, really do not find that argument compelling that, like, you trade Devers, now you can spend $30 million on something else. Well, you should be spending $60 million. Like, the whole point is that tax, you can say you want to stay under the tax penalty. That's fine. But you were $30 million under that first level of tax penalty. So you still had plenty of money to spend. You had plenty of money to spend to lock up those guys. So what I see it is, you traded Mookie Betts because you said we'd be able to keep Bogarts and Devers. You've now have none of those people, and you still haven't spent that money. So to me, I see that as, I mean, if you're a Red Sox fan, you can keep telling yourself, great, Roman Anthony will be signed up, Christian Campbell will be signed up, Jarren Duran will get a big contract. But do you believe it? Do you really believe it? Or do you think John Henry will say, Roman Anthony, 5 years later,
right,
we don't want to get underwater on that. Enjoy the San Diego Padres. Enjoy the Arizona Diamondbacks, because you have to send them to an NL West club. Why would you believe otherwise? Why the hell would you believe otherwise? Because I don't believe it. I don't believe they're going to sign that money. I don't think they're going to spend that money. And they might spend the $30 million they saved on Devers, but they're still so they can stay as the like a poor rich team and fly under the radar. Because I do not.
That's what you want to do. Go for it. But the Rays have never signed a player to a massive extension, and then, like, well, okay, maybe Blake Snell would be like, you sign him to the extension and you trade him while he's still in his peak. And they swung and missed on the Blake Snell trade, and it happens. But
and that was a trade. That was a trade that, like, they got a package that on paper is big. Like, this is like the Devers one was clearly we need to get out of this contract. And we're getting some interesting stuff, but it was not this is not even on paper like, oh yeah, you could see, like, they missed on the Snell trade, but, like, you can make the argument that was it was like the Soto trade. Like, Nats nailed their Soto trade. They got their 3 superstars. Rays missed on theirs, but, like, that could have easily been the other way. But that's, this is I find the money argument for this deal to be the most, like, egregious, because you can be underwater on Devers and he can be your DH, and you can sign Bregman, and you can still re-sign to an extension Roman Anthony, and you still got $30 million to spend, or $20 million, let's say.
Yeah, you're
fine.
Okay, we that segment took a little bit longer than anticipated, but that's all right. Well, we're gonna get back on track and finish.
We're talking about teams spending, which could be different soon with the
Rays. So I want to talk first about this season and kind of where we are. We're 5 weeks away from the trade deadline, and we talked a lot about the bats, and the bats have been great, and they've powered this run, and there's been some really great pitching performances. However, overall, I think the Rays pitching staff has struggled, maybe in some ways that we anticipated, but also in some ways that were not expected. Guys like Edwin Uceda and Mason Montgomery having bullpen struggles, and Taj Bradley not being consistently effective. Shane Baz having similar issues. Now that you're, very much in a pennant race, you're one of the best teams in the American League. I'm wondering, what are the goals now? What are the goals to improve this roster going into the trade deadline and to solidify yourself as a front runner in the American League? How do you go about improving this roster? If there's a way, like, is this a year where you think you're really good, but you're not pushing chips in? Or are there going to be ways to really bolster either the bullpen or the starting rotation?
It's a really interesting question, and I've been like really thinking about this a lot, and so I'm curious to hear your opinion on it. When I'm looking at the team, the hardest thing is like, where do you upgrade, and like, how do you upgrade? And not to say like this team is like complete and like they're the best team in baseball and there's no way to fix it, but it's very hard to get the significant boost that you would need to kind of raise this. I think in the years past, we've talked about like a line, like the Drew Rasmussen line, when it was like, you have to get better than that, or like the Zach Eflin line, like where is that line? And I think right now you're probably looking at it. It's like, you're probably looking at Zach Littell line. Like if you can get a better than Zach Littell and push that down, but is that just Joe Boyle?
It might be Joe Boyle.
Is that just Joe Boyle? Like, do you have that addition?
It might be Joe Boyle. In the Zach Littell line could be, okay, we're going to move Zach Littell because we also know we have Joe Boyle and potentially Shane McClanahan. Sounds like it was a little scary for a minute with Shane McClanahan. Just kept getting the report he wasn't at 100%. Like, he started throwing and then he stopped throwing. Had to see a nerve specialist. Sounds like he got good news from the nerve specialist. But they're going to really slow play him coming back. I
can't imagine it's until like the second half, right? Like after the break,
it's
easily,
August.
obviously, but like
it's August.
More like
that. Really started like pitching bullpens yet? Like, he needs.
No, I think he's just getting back onto the mound because he was supposed to get onto the mound about a month ago.
So then he needs like a
he needs another month minimum. So yeah, we're looking at like probably more like gearing up. I kind of see it more as like the Rasmussen. I could see it as the Rasmussen line from last year, where it was like bullpen 2-inning guy to kind of get ready, and then maybe by the end of the season he can like give you a start or two. But like,
you think they might use him as a bullpen?
I don't know if I'm counting on him as a starter yet, and I don't think the Rays should calculate that into their math.
It's harder.
It's great, but like,
it's harder when you're in a spot where you could win the division. Like, do you have the room to? Okay, we're going to use McClanahan as a starter, and he's only going to go 3 innings. Like the Dodgers are, the Dodgers have a lot of unique situations, but they've got Ohtani, who's pitching like 1 or 2 innings at a time, and then they've got like Ben Kasparius, who I love. Ben Kasparius. If we had an opening, I'd love to really go trade for him. You've also kind of been in a weird spot, knock on wood, that no one has missed a turn in the rotation. And Joe Boyle came up for one spot start to give everyone an extra day. But, in years past, it's like, okay, this pitcher is going to go on the IL for 3 weeks. And so that's going to let us kind of experiment and let Joe Boyle have some run, or we're going to do a bullpen day and experiment with these arms and see if we can stretch any of them out. This year, it's a good problem to have. You just haven't had that.
Haven't had to make Eric Orsi into the next Zach Littell.
Why not?
I mean, you haven't had to. That's like, normally this would be around the time where you can be like, suddenly Orsi's getting an opener and he went 2. Oh, next time out he went 3.
Yeah, went full time through the lineup. so that's been a good thing. So it's,
Yeah.
are there starters out there that are like,
It's
kind of
really
think
hard to look. Like I'm looking around and I'm like, there's
Freddie
guys that maybe are better
Peralta
than
would be great, but he would
yeah.
cost a lot because he's cheap, very cheap. Seth
I
Lugo is out there.
I think the Rays are in a spot right now where I think their shopping should be more of the middle term. Like if to really upgrade this team, there's a lot when I'm looking at the rentals are expensive, and I'm not seeing a ton that are like a clear upgrade. I look at we look at like left field. I don't know. Taylor Ward, I still love, but like, is that a true upgrade? Maybe
over
yes.
a
Like,
2-month period, like your variance with Taylor Ward is going to be crazy. Like getting Taylor Ward, I wanted Taylor Ward. Yeah, I wanted him in the offseason. I think over a full season of Taylor Ward would have been good for this team. But it's like, okay, you get Taylor Ward for the stretch run, and maybe it doesn't work out. It's the same thing with like getting 42-year-old Nelson Cruz.
Right.
It's like, you got a 42-year-old and not a potential Hall of Fame candidate.
We talked about like the Rays kind of needing like better right-handed bats to like improve their left-handed pitching like offense, and then like you can barely get Curtis Mead into play, and he's been like red hot. So like it's like, okay, yeah, maybe that's an option. Or do you look at left field as like, okay, we need an upgrade, but to actually truly get an upgrade, you need to swing bigger, trade bigger, and get like, say, if Cleveland falls out of it, Stephen Kwan, who's under contract for another couple of years, arbitration wise, gets expensive, but that is a guy that elevates that position. That elevates that position, both defensively and offensively. That like actually gives you that starter.
Yeah.
But you're looking at the platoon options like Palacios Morel that is about the same as Taylor Ward. Like what will give you over the 2 months? Like there's more security, there's a higher floor, but it's harder to get there. So do you try to bigger swing? I think bullpen wise, again, that gets expensive. Like who is shopping really good relievers? But that's where maybe the Rays try a Nick Anderson style trade where you go after a guy that you think is really good, that has years of control, and you give up a big piece for it. And you look at, you look around the league and you look at some guys that are maybe being in not the closer spot. Like you could look at maybe a David Bednar with Pittsburgh. He's going to cost a bit more on the rental side. Or do you go after, a reliever who's got 4 or 5 years of control that you think could be, do a Pete Fairbanks trade, a Nick Anderson trade, where you are really identifying a high leverage arm that is available that you're going to have to trade a good piece for, but that's not just a this year move. That's a next year and the year after move too.
Jordan Leisure, White Sox. I mean,
we both love Jordan Leisure. We both are a big fan of Jordan Leisure. But that is the type of arm. Actually, that is the type of arm. Like that's the type of move where you trade maybe Curtis Mead to the White Sox. Poor Curtis Mead. I'm sorry. But like that's the thing. Full-time playing time, a lot of years of control. But now you got Jordan Leisure, and suddenly he's your kind of like 8th inning guy or 7th inning guy very quickly. Who has not had like the full breakout yet, but like everything's trending that way. And it's sort of just like get him over here. Kind of like what the Rays were able to like kind of scrounge up with like Forrest Whitley, where you're like, we can do a lot better than what's going on over there. I mean, Houston's great, but like I think that was just sort of a, sometimes you need a change of scenery, but like mixing stuff up. It's very hard to find true upgrades on this team. Like either you swing really big and you trade a lot, but we are in the spot where like they could also just go, a small consolidation trade. Like Bob Seymour is like a perfect option. Somebody who's kind of coming up on this Rule 5 time where you kind of need to add him, but there's really no spot. So maybe trade him for, maybe a fringy bullpen piece that you kind of like.
Position player side upgrades. I mean, center field is, but like,
hard to
who
find.
Are you getting in center field that doesn't cost the farm, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't see one out there.
Catcher is suddenly become.
I think
really
the catching
solid
position is but I still think that is a position where Neander has shown less patience with the catcher position.
Sean Murphy's out
there.
there.
The right move. Sean Murphy's out there.
They have
Travis d'Arnaud is out there.
Is Travis d'Arnaud better than either of the catchers they have? No, he's not.
You're probably right.
Danny Jansen's better than Travis d'Arnaud. They already chose wisely with Jansen over d'Arnaud once. I think they'll do it again. But Sean Murphy's another one of these pop pieces, right? So Sean Murphy's a guy still under control for several more years, about 4 more years, I think 3 more years, and then a club option. Mm-hmm. The Braves have actually, they just keep finding. Drake Baldwin's been great, so they found another great catcher. They traded William Contreras, got Sean Murphy. Now they've grown another good catcher, just a spoils of riches over there. But you have Drake Baldwin. It's hard to keep 2 catchers like that. You always need 2, but like it's hard to keep 2 on the roster. And maybe there is an option for a trade there where you trade a nice piece, and now you have locked in your number 1 catcher for the next several years. And that does sort of change the math. Like the Rays have sought Sean Murphy before. I think they came very close in a trade with Oakland, and they could not get over the line. Oakland eventually chose a weird package that did not work out at all.
Probably a worse offer.
Almost certainly a worse offer, which makes me still mad to this day. But whatever. Sean Murphy already signed his extension, the nice team-friendly extension with money for the Braves fund. And so maybe there's an option there. Like maybe there's an option to make a trade. Like you trade a big piece, a big prospect, or maybe a major league piece. Atlanta's in a weird like fringe spot where they're still kind of competing, but they're also kind of dug themselves a bit of a hole. So
yeah,
they're in between. But Sean Murphy could be an interesting upgrade. But they also look at Danny Jansen and Matt Thaiss, and it's a really solid. There's a lot of non-upgrades out there at catcher that are better than that.
It would take like Jansen like falling off a cliff offensively again over the next month.
Yeah,
I think to where you would feel pressure to do that. But they'll acquire a pitcher, I'm sure. Like I'm certain of it. A reliever, I'm sure. It would take like I would say if I said Bradley, Boz, Littell, will one of them be traded this year? Would you take that or no? Like,
will one of those be traded this
just over under half of those?
I'm going to say
0.5 of those players.
Okay. Okay.
Not half.
Not half of the player. I will. Yes. I'm going to take that. And I think it would be a bold trade. I think the Rays could have a very quiet deadline, but I also could see a very fun trade that goes like, oh, they're selling, and then like be like, nope, wait, no, they're buying. No, wait.
Yeah, what? A Boz, I can see that. Like a Boz trade. Like a Littell seems like, okay, we're going to move a guy because either McClanahan's about to be ready, or if not, we're going to have
Boyle. I mean, I do think like in another month by the deadline, right? So you have another month to go. You do get to a spot where like you trade Zach Littell, and then you give Boyle that spot, and now you have potentially just upgraded your starting rotation. Potentially. I think Zach Littell really has a high bar. I think he's a very solid major league starter. But like that's the type of thing, like for somebody else, that's a huge upgrade. Like Zach Littell is a huge upgrade for a lot of teams that are in desperate need for starters. And for the Rays, you can go, I think Joe Boyle for the next, 11, 12 starts plus potential playoffs, I like Boyle better. And I think you make that trade and you potentially get back a piece, or that's not the piece that you get back that impacts you. You do another trade that then brings back the piece. Like you trade a prospect for the reliever. Zach Littell is traded for the prospect that will slide into that spot, basically. And now you have Joe Boyle into the rotation. And you've done a bunch of moves, and now you ended up with interesting reliever and Joe Boyle in the rotation. And that's your kind of upgrade.
I'm going to do the same version of that last question, but position player.
Okay. Do you take
Johnny
that? Do you?
Yeah.
Before that, do you take it?
Yeah, I think it's most likely Littell.
Yeah.
I think there's.
I think Boz's new
need arms.
Boz's new cutter, I think, completely changes my trajectory on Boz. I was very out. I'm now very in.
And I included Bradley there, but I really don't see a world in which
so
he's
cost
traded.
controlled.
He's so young. Like, yeah. you can be frustrated with what Bradley has done this season based on what we saw for an extended stretch last year. You don't want to give up on him yet. I don't think.
As a fifth starter,
pick 3 players. So
like,
you're not trading Rasmussen and you're not trading Pepio.
You're not trading Pepio. Rasmussen.
I don't think so. He's gonna not in season.
It would be. I don't think in season. I agree.
Like he's your game 1 starter.
I think Littell is still moved. I think Pepio. I think Pepio goes game 1. Yeah, I know you're right. You might be right. It might be.
Take your pick. Whoever lines up on. Like, okay, you go into a division series. You've got Rasmussen and Pepio, hopefully McClanahan, and then who's like? Are you then like
Joe Boyle?
Is it Joe Boyle? Like,
it might be. It might be 4 innings.
Usually when you get to that point, whoever's your game 4 starter is a quick hook.
Yeah,
like
and Boz 2 times through has been very good. So that's the thing. I think Boz, if you leave him as a 2-time through the order guy in the postseason, I think you're very happy actually. With the new cutter, bumping that cutter up a ton has really changed his competitiveness. And he still struggles 3rd time through the order, but those first 2 times have been really good. So yeah, I think right now, postseason rise 4th starter is Shane Boz. And I think actually you're weirdly comfortable with that.
Yeah. Okay. The position player group. And
okay.
I'm kind of cherry picking these 3. We could probably waffle on who would be the 3 included in here, but Johnny DeLuca, Richie Palacios, and Christopher Morel. Will one of those guys be traded before July?
Yeah. Traded or not on the raw? Yeah, traded. Sure. I'm going to say yes.
Traded.
I'll say yes.
I could see a Palacios trade. I could struggle to see Palacios' fit with Mangum's, with the season Mangum is having. And he seems like a valuable, versatile piece, more so than Mangum, to where you could trade him. And that could be a deadline trade. Man, we needed a left-handed bat that we could plug in left or at second, but for a team that's in the wild card hunt. That
he gets hot a little bit. Yeah, I could see that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the market is because, like, going into the year, like, okay, if the Rays are hovering around 500 or worse, you could trade Lau or Diaz. I do not see a world in which either of those guys are traded with the team performing.
No, I don't see. I could see the pitching side much easier than I could see like Lau. You trade Lau, and now Curtis Mead takes over, right? And like, I just don't see that in season. Like, I just do not see that at all. Like, it's possible that Curtis Mead has done enough, and the Rays are comfortable enough that it's a Jonathan Aranda situation where next year you trade a Yandy or a Brandon Lau because you're like, we need a spot for Curtis Mead. Mm-hmm. But I agree. I don't think it's an in-season trade. Like, that is the type of move that's too difficult to pull off. And I just think they value those guys. They think that like Lau and Yandy are a tier above. Like, I think right now, like we talked about, those are 4 guys that are a tier above everybody else. And I do think Josh Lowe is a tier below in terms of like, I could see a Josh Lowe trade in season more than I could see one of those 4.
Yeah.
Like, well, Camaro's not going anywhere, obviously. But,
yeah.
But like,
Lowe seems unlikely to me. With Lowe being like your everyday right field, it would seem tough, but I wouldn't rule it out. But yeah,
One of
interesting to see what DeLuca is obviously health, and then like Palacios, can he stay healthy? How does he look once he's healthy again?
Does I guess I'm going to break out one for you. Christopher Morel, yay or nay, is on this roster August 1st.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I say yay as well. That's a big one though, because that's like he's made it through the trade deadline.
Well, and yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, things could change. I think as of now, I mean, Neander kind of put out an ultimatum, and he's answered that call since
he's answered the call.
So it feels like he's. I'm not going to say he's here to stay. That's like cursed words, but that's a good segue into what we can end the show on.
Yes,
we have recently gotten some news.
Big news.
Was originally broken last week by Sportico. That the Tampa Bay Rays are in advanced talks to be sold to a group led by Patrick Zalupski of Jacksonville. He is a home developer for $1.7 billion. There's been some further reporting that the intention of this group would be to build a stadium in Tampa. And the Rays came out and made an official statement that they have entered exclusive negotiations with this group, and nothing is completed. And even in Sportico's reporting, they said that a letter of intent has been signed, but that does not mean the deal is done and could fall apart. But I think this is probably the closest we've ever gotten to Stuart Sternberg selling the team, where there is one group that is being negotiated with exclusively, and it feels like we're in a point where we could have more news on that any day now. Into what direction this is heading in. There's a lot we don't know, but Darby, what are your initial thoughts to this news?
I think so. My initial thoughts are that this is coming out because it's real. It's the most real it's been, I think. In terms of like sale, like this is now, I think this is now legit. Like this is one of those things where I don't think this comes out as like, we've talked about this as like, is this a negotiating tactic, right? Does it come out because Stu wants to leak it so that there's another person and that ups the, I think this is something that there's been rumors of for several months now, that there's people surrounding the team looking to buy, prospective buyers, Tampa Bay area people, that type of thing, right? We have heard that. I think that there was a lot of smoke there that was legit, but this is a $1.7 billion deal as being reported. 3 months later, that's about right for how long that would take to get to the we're trying to dot every I and cross every T. Like we are not in the, we got to open the books up and see. We're in the, let's do our fourth check. And now we're ready. And I think that's why this is coming out. I think there's been a lot of stuff. In terms of news, I think it is fairly real. I think we are probably in the end game with this. And I think overall, I'm feeling very hopeful.
Yeah, me too.
Is my overall emotion.
With that being said, if I'm playing kind of devil's advocate here, some of the reporting that has come out that the intention is to build a stadium in Tampa. Well, of course, that's what this group is going to say, right? You're coming in, you're buying this group.
There's been a lot of intentions to build a stadium in Tampa.
And
the stadium has been paved with good intentions.
You can't build it with those intentions, though.
We've been trying for about 14 years.
Like, you're not going to buy this team for $1.7 billion and be like, yep, we're ripping it out of the community. Have fun. Good luck. And, I think, of course, they want it in Tampa because it's a huge media market. And why wouldn't you want it in Tampa if you can get a deal done?
Yeah.
And the fact that $1.7 billion I thought was quite high, especially selling in a moment where there's not a lot of leverage that Sternberg has over this deal. He's been pressured by other owners and by the commissioner's office to sell. He cannot build a stadium. He's been trying for 20 years and hasn't been able to do it. So 1.7 billion, I was a little shocked by that number. And then to think, okay, this group, they're spending this much money to purchase the team. Now they need to build a stadium, and that's going to cost probably close to another $1 billion on their end, if they want to do it in Tampa.
So here's my little conspiracy point here.
Okay.
Why is this this exclusive letter of intent? And we've already had what is his name? Trip Miller, claiming who's kind of been like sniffing around baseball for a while now, and has said like he's come out, he's supposedly offered 1.85 billion, according to one article, like back in a couple years ago, right?
Yeah,
and now he said he would beat any offer. Cash, cash. Trip, come on, cash offer, come on, 1.8 billion cash, come now. I like Steve Cohen is like gonna have a hard time getting that in cash, but anyway.
Well, maybe not. He probably used like illegal means to do that.
So Tripp has said this, right, and this has been out there. I have a feeling the reason why that is not there's not like this fight between the two, and maybe he's being kind of ignored, and maybe he's just trying to leverage himself to be like, remember me, baseball, when comes time to expand.
Right.
I have a lot of money,
and there's other teams that might be sold in the near future.
Exactly. Well. I think he is maybe posturing himself that. It does seem like there's been a lot of rumors that like Rob Manfred has been and the commissioner's office has been personally invested and have sent people to help negotiate with this team.
And the governor's office has been involved as well.
And the governor's office has been involved. So Ron DeSantis has been talked to from Rob Manfred, personal meeting, and he came away being like, the Rays are staying in Florida, being assured. Now, Zalewski was appointed to the board of trustees, right, by Ron DeSantis. So one of this, so he has a connection there, which I mean, again, like rich people tend to like to
connection.
Yeah, you want it. It's worth it to get on any governor's good side if you're going to be doing business in the state. So that's there. Is this potentially, and I don't have any inside info, is this potentially a match that like, why is Stu kind of doing this? Why is he getting this sweetheart deal when there doesn't seem to be leverage? Is this Major League Baseball being like, time to sort of take this over? We are done with this. We need to move on. We have a guy, Ron DeSantis vouches for him. He is going to give us the assurance that he can pull some strings, permitting, and potentially tax wise. We're going to work with the local officials. He had to do a meeting with Chris Latvala to get some stuff agreed to. Jane Castor has seemingly been very confident in speaking out, like less of a, like, we'd love to, less platitudes and more seemingly like, we're going to see how this works out. But like, there seems to be like, we hope that there's a space for the Rays. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of very convenient stuff happening where it does feel like maybe Major League Baseball is making deals and with the local governments to make this a smooth, easy transition. And the goal for Sternberg's side is you're getting your deal. Stop shopping. In fact, don't listen to Trip Miller. We don't know if we actually want to do business with him. Because this is the other thing, is that Major League Baseball owners have to approve this.
Have to approve it.
The commissioner's office has to approve this. They have to agree. Maybe Trip Miller's a bit of a shady guy. We don't know. But like, maybe that's like a person that they may or may not want to deal with. Like, usually you don't turn down money because that is part of the larger package. But maybe this is a guy we want to deal with. It's an exclusive club. This is a country club that only has 30 owners or 30 opportunities to join with many sub owners. But like, this might be the Major League Baseball has shown that they really, really want a team in Tampa or St. Pete.
In
They
Florida.
want that medium market. They want in
Right.
Florida, but Manfred has specifically mentioned the Tampa Bay area medium market.
But even while this deal is being done, the clock is still ticking on
Totally.
Tropicana Field.
Totally.
And everyone, I think, if this sale goes through, everyone, St. Pete, Tampa, Orlando, they're all gonna be open to discussions.
Absolutely.
Why not? We'll all be back at the table.
Absolutely.
We don't want to deal with Stu Sternberg anymore. Once
Yeah.
he's out of the picture, St. Pete will come back with their offer. There's been no movement on the historic gas plant district, and it takes time, but I think that's partly intentional. A lease extension at Tropicana Field might be back on the table. But with that being said, as of now, the Rays have a stadium until 2028. And then after that, they don't have a stadium. So the clock is ticking right now on Tampa, on St. Pete, and I think Orlando, whether it's smart or not from a business standpoint to put a team there, I think that Orlando is ready.
I think Orlando is the safety net.
Yes.
I think Orlando is the safety net.
We need a stadium built by 2029, and Orlando is the only place that can do it. That is my fear. I don't know. I'm not going to go into the debate of like whether or not I would, if they moved an hour east, like if I'm going to stop being a Rays fan, I don't want to have that debate right now. That is my fear. Like as someone who wants to see the team stay in the Tampa Bay area, is that, Tampa sounds great now. New owner, they're meeting with the mayor potentially. All these things are going on.
We do know he did have a meeting last month with Jane Kasser. It's on the public record. Zalewski. Yep. Yeah, Luke, absolutely correct. It's public record. Evan Klosky noted it. Because anytime, governors and stuff meet with potential people with money, that's public record, fresh air. But isn't that a so much better spot though? Like that's why I feel so hopeful with this news.
It's better than what we were a month ago, 2 months ago.
This isn't Nashville. This isn't Charlotte. This isn't Portland. It's not Utah. It's like, it's seemingly good for this area, but maybe it's like worst case scenario, Orlando. That's a much better spot to be in, I think, personally. And I'm just speaking for myself.
And with a new owner.
And with a new owner.
Like you're right. You're 100% right. The question is, the debate is, you can't get it done in Tampa. Are you going to go to St. Pete at the gas plant site, the Trop site? Or do you say, hey, Orlando, what do you have? Because we really don't love the idea of staying in St. Pete for another 30 years or whatever it is. Those are questions that will be answered in due time. At least I hope. It's not a done deal.
The other thing to talk about, and this will be once this is all the dust settles, is I think I have seen like a lot of Rays fans online in various places worry about like, what does that mean for the future of the club with like Kevin Cash and Erik Neander in the front office? And like Stu, for the devil, has been a very good owner for staying out of their way, right? You don't love the payroll numbers he gives you, but he gives you the numbers and doesn't.
And he has hired, for my money, the two best executives in the game. Yes. And Andrew Friedman and Erik Neander. Like he brought Friedman into baseball with him when he took ownership. And then, they hired Neander as an intern and a true homegrown talent as a baseball executive. So that's pretty impressive. There's no guarantee, like nothing is guaranteed with a new owner.
It would be very unlikely though that you're buying this. If you're valuing this franchise at 1.7 billion, I do think there's a pretty good chunk of that is the front office analytics, the machine that you can basically grab. And it's very hard to buy a team that is so good that it's been a top 5 franchise over the last decade in terms of wins. This is, and 1.7 billion is a lot, but that would be a steal. Like the Braves, the Dodgers, the Yankees, like these teams that are in that top like 5 win totals, they're not selling for under $2 billion. So I do think there is a level of like, the White Sox situation is what, was on sale recently. The Twins are on sale, but like this is a big thing, and I that'll be the discussion of like, what does this new ownership mean? How much money will they spend? Will that change the way the Rays operate? Blah blah blah. These are all for future shows, but I do think in terms of fear wise, the front office, I don't see them going anywhere.
No, it's there can be fear, and that's warranted, but it's better than
Totally.
like standing on the edge of the abyss, which is where it felt like we've been for a couple of years now.
True. Very true.
We might not like where we land, but it's not a pit of nothingness. It's not
Yeah.
obliviation.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's good news. I think it's exciting news, and it's something we'll hopefully hear more about throughout the summer.
We've been in limbo for so long that this is, I think, especially since the stadium deal kind of fell apart, it's just sort of like, let's get to the next phase. Like, we know that there needs to be a next phase, like that Stu has burned every bridge possible in the area. What is next? And this is exciting news that it's somebody that has Florida ties, and there are a lot of ties to the Tampa Bay region as well. So
yeah, well, it's been a while, so we did 90 strong minutes today. So if you're still listening, thank you for sticking around with us. We have been live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice. If you're watching the video right now and you haven't already, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications so you can join us whenever we go live. We're also still available, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. Leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, one of the best ways to spread our podcast to more and more Rays fans. As always, make sure to head on over to draysbay.com to check out all that great Rays coverage. Once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.